Welcome to the Rosa and Rhea podcast, where two sisters talk about sex, love, and relationships. Okay, so today we want to talk about the power of no, because we all know about the power of now. It's a very famous book. So we shortened it. We want to talk about the power of no in your lives, either saying no for yourself or to somebody for yourself. Every way, shape, or form where saying no enhances your life and makes it better. The thing that comes up for me has to do with self-esteem. Self-esteem comes from esteemable acts. So whatever you do that you personally consider to be good, when you do that, you build your self-esteem, whatever that might be. Charitable work, being there for your friends, your morals, your ethics, all of that combined. Every time you do an action towards that's esteemable, that builds your self-esteem. That's why they say no one can take your self-esteem away from you, because it's based on all your own acts that you do. And it can also be applied to not doing something. So doing something can make you feel good about your self-esteem. It can build your self-esteem. And not doing something can also build your self-esteem, saying no. And I have a great example of this, and it's something that I always pay attention to, especially when I'm in a relationship or dating someone, whatever it might be, serious, not serious. So the example that I always think about is something that happens all the time to me because I'm a server. People ask you to get your shifts covered so that you can hang out with them. And a lot of guys do this. So a guy will text you, he's got a hard dick, he's horny, he wants to hang out, and he's like, what are you doing tonight? And you're like, oh, I got to work at 6. And he's like, oh, get your shift covered and we can hang out. And doesn't that feel so great when a guy wants to hang out with you?
I know where
right?
It's going.
It totally feels great. And you know what? For a long time, I would try desperately to get my shift covered. But what that ends up telling you and the guy is that all you have to give them is basically your time and sex in that moment. And you have nothing else to offer.
And also, how empty do you feel after you've done that?
Exactly. And broke.
Yes, you have no money, and you feel upset and resentful because not only are you left with this empty hole inside, because he probably just leaves afterwards, and that's it.
Yeah. You're like, I thought you had the whole night free.
Yeah, and he's never coming back to cuddle you. And then you, on top of that, you have the sadness of losing out on all the bag, right? Mm-hmm. The money. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that sucks. I know what that feels like. Because that's happened to me before. It's happened to me recently. Yeah. And I've done that. I recently did that. I said I took the night off work to hang out with someone.
Oh, no.
And it wasn't good. And he literally just rolled up, jizzed, and left.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that
can't be good on your self-esteem,
No,
right?
And that was a really great lesson to me. It was a reminder, even though I'm practicing no's all the time in my life, every day, it was a slip. Mm-hmm. I gave him a yes when I should have given him a hard no.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was hard, and I have to learn from that mistake.
Yeah. And so there's several layers to this. One of the reasons that you have to say no is because you have plans for your money. Right? Don't you have plans for that money? Aren't you paying off debt? Aren't you, I just turned 30. I have a 10-year goal for my money now. Maybe, women out there, you might be wanting to start a business soon. You might be wanting to use that money to travel. There are many things that you're going to do with that money that your hopes and dreams are tied into. And it can go really, really deep when you say to yourself and when you say to somebody else, yeah, the money doesn't matter. And, especially if you're looking for a husband or if you're hoping one day to meet a life partner, a spiritual partner who you go through life with, what are you saying basically to that person and to yourself when you're throwing your money away? Yeah. You're saying that you don't have anything to offer and that your hopes and dreams aren't important.
Yeah, it's a lowering of your self-worth. And it also, again, another thing about the power of no is that when you actually say it, like, so this guy's like, oh, do you want to take the night off and get your shift covered and we'll hang out? And you say no, and he never speaks to you again. Well, fucking perfect.
Yeah.
And then alternatively, he might say, well, let's do this another night when you have the night off completely.
Yes.
Or we can do it when it's convenient for you. Or I understand that you have to work and make the bag or whatever.
Yes.
You know?
And that's the other layer, is that some guys, that is not an immediate deal breaker. You could consider it like a little red flag. If a guy asks you to get your shift covered or, compromise what's important to you in order to hang out with him. But if you say no, like Rhea is saying, and they want to make plans another time, that's a really good, positive decision, right? So you can forgive them for that little slip up. The most important thing to pay attention to is if you, like what Rhea did, if you say yes, right? That means that the guy is not right for you, because he is basically like knocking you off your own 2 feet where you're standing in your beliefs and your goals. He is like making you lay down, sit down. He's knocking you completely off track, and you're allowing that. So that would be somebody that is not aligning with your life purpose, that is not aligning with your goals. And most likely the sex won't be very good, because if you are so out of whack on such a fundamental level where he has no respect for your money, then he's probably not going to have any respect for your pussy, for the journey you can bring him on, for all the amazing times that you have to offer. He's probably just going to use you like a hole.
Yeah, and that's exactly what happens. And, it's the same thing with the condoms when you're not using them. It's like when you're making choices like that. What I said in the last podcast, and I've said it before, is that when you don't use condoms and you know that you should be, sometimes that's always in the back of your mind. Yeah. So same thing like taking the night off, that might be in the back of your mind. Oh my God, I took the night off. I'm going to be down a couple $100s. So you might not be able to enjoy the moment. And enjoying the moment and being present in the moment is really the only way to experience full 100% pleasure.
100%. Yeah. Gotta be in the moment.
That's why you got to line these things up correctly. That's what I'm learning.
Yeah.
That's why no's are important. If it doesn't line up, if it's not a good timing or not the right communication or interaction, it's not really worth it.
Yeah. And, one of the reasons why they're so powerful is because it will immediately show you who should be in your life and who shouldn't.
Yes.
Like, if you are not comfortable with something, like having sex without a condom, and to the other person that's a deal breaker, then that person does not belong in your life.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's actually a no that gives you a really awesome gift that, no, okay, on to the next. Just like when you're freaking picking fruit in the grocery store. You touch one, no, I don't like that one. It's just not for me. Whatever it may be, it's not personal. It's not, like, you don't have to think about it too much. It's the world, the universe, you yourself is telling you that person doesn't belong. And it's like very, very simple. And you have to listen. Yeah,
you absolutely do. And like you say, it really hones it down, and you can actually get really good quality people by giving people no's, pushing people out, and then the really good quality people are going to respect you. They're going to respect your boundaries. They're going to probably have even more respect for you, seeing how strong you are in upholding those boundaries, and they're going to want to be around you.
Yeah,
exactly. So they'll stick around.
And I mean, another great example of this, we've talked about this before, is something I've pulled way back on in the last few months, which you guys might be surprised about, because first few episodes we talked a lot about sending nudes, right? How much we love it. Rhea likes to make her own porn. Rhea loves to be the star of the show. She's out there. And, she's found her way to feel comfortable doing it, and my way actually is not doing it at all. I don't send nudes anymore at all. And if a guy can't handle that, I've actually experienced this recently in the last couple months. A guy asked me for nudes, and I said, just see me in person next time we hang out because I don't really feel comfortable sending you a nude. And he literally broke up with me.
Yeah.
He was like,
There you go.
okay, I don't want to ever talk to you again. This is no fun. And I was like, okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your honesty, and we'll move right along and we'll find people who want the same things. But for me, that was really good for my self-esteem saying that no, because I haven't really felt like I'm getting enough out of sending nudes.
Yeah.
It just feels too givey.
Oh, God. I
Right?
mean, it is. And, women in particular have issues with saying no, I think.
Totally.
Because the system and the world is set up for women not to say no.
Or to feel bad if they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even I, and probably yourself, are conditioned in a way to feel a little bit guilty when you say no. But it's also way too givey. Mm-hmm. Like you're giving, like I'm sick and tired of giving anything to people that aren't going to give me anything in return.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, it could be like time, it could be whatever. There's so many things you can give back to someone, but there's people that don't want to give you anything.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing. So part of...
There's a lot of people who do want to give a lot as well, right? And those people actually won't show up in your life until you're starting this no process, right?
Yeah, it's really important to start the no process.
As soon as you start this process of saying no, you literally clear the horizon of the people, who are constantly trying to convince you to get a yes out of you. And those people might not be giving back. But as soon as you get them out of your lives and you sort of switch up your process, the people who want to give back or who are considerate, giving, genuine and generous, like enthusiastic lovers, for example, they will show up.
Yes, absolutely. And they might even see or recognize you putting up these boundaries and giving out these no's, and they might say to themselves, I better step it up.
Yes.
I want to be in this person's life. I'm going to have to improve my behavior.
And, we all, like, everyone knows this saying, but it's so simple. If you want something different, if you want to get a different thing out of your life, if you want a different boyfriend, if you want a different relationship, if you want a different job, you have to be different yourself. And what's different about what I've been doing is I've been saying no, because I literally, for the past 15 years, I've been scrambling to say yes to every man because, it's been ingrained in me that the more you say yes and the more you cater to a man's needs, the more they're going to love you. The more you show them that you're the one who will give them the most of you, then you'll win them. But it's actually completely the opposite.
Yes, exactly.
The more that you give to yourself, the more you have to offer in a real partnership, if that's what you want.
Yeah.
And it goes down the ladder if you want a partnership, if you want friends with benefits, if you want strictly sex. Of course, we're going to try and relate it to sexual encounters and relationships in this instant, but whichever that is, the no has to happen. You have to start cutting people out of your lives. You have to start explaining what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, and voicing it as many times as possible.
Yeah, and it's tricky in the bedroom, right? Especially when it comes to your body.
Yeah, you know what? I have found it really tricky because I've been practicing what I preach on this podcast. I'm very considerate of my actions in the last 5 months that we've been recording because I really believe in what I'm saying and what we're saying. Yet I still have found myself in positions or situations where I'm not getting what I want sexually. And I almost wanted to just only blame myself because, there is a huge part of this that it's your fault if you're not getting what you want. The reason why I was to blame wasn't because I kept having sex with this person and I wasn't saying, oh, touch me here, spank me here. You can communicate to the end of the world and back, but what really needed to happen was ending it completely. There's a certain period of time where you can ask for what you want very specifically in the bedroom with a certain person, but if it consistently goes on where you're not getting that, that's not your fault anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yes.
You need to end it and move on and find a new person.
Yeah. And not everyone is a pleaser.
Yes.
And there could be many reasons for that. I have no idea why certain people are pleasers and other people aren't, but some people just aren't. And sometimes when people aren't something, we all know it's tough to change people. It's like they just don't care.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? People have so much stuff going on in their lives. It's like, do I really want to take the time to learn how to make her orgasm every time we have sex? I don't know. Maybe I don't have time for that shit.
Yeah.
Right? Literally.
Yeah. And when you encounter somebody like that, you can explain to them forever, for years,
That's
exactly
right.
what you want. But if they're not a pleaser, if they're not enthusiastic and generous, then you're not going to get it.
Yeah, exactly. And they just, it doesn't matter. They don't know, they don't know the freaking amazing adventure journey a woman can take you on
Once
if she's turned on.
And had an orgasm.
Holy shit. It's so amazing. When I look at the sex now where I have an orgasm and then when I don't, where the guy doesn't make me orgasm first,
Yes.
it's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
The difference.
And I mean, I've had this conversation with a lot of men. They love hearing this. So I'm going to just say it again. I don't know if we've recorded it yet. So imagine, women out there, imagine your pussy after you come, right? It's like full of blood. It's like very wet. It's hot. It's juicy. It's like the tightest it's ever been. How good does it feel when you finally get the penetration from a dick? You can literally feel how tight you are. Like it's swollen, compared to, if a guy just kind of like makes out with you for 5 minutes and then spits on his hand and puts some spit inside your pussy. The difference there is night and day. And I think what I suspect is the pleasers out there have learned this secret, about what gets the pussy that way. Right? And
yes,
it's an orgasm.
That's right. It's the only way. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a very sweaty profusser. My pussy gets really wet, so I do get really wet even if I haven't had an orgasm.
Okay.
But it's out of control once I've had the orgasm.
Yes.
All those other physiological changes that you just spoke of happen.
Yes.
And it's very important.
And it's an infinite well, right?
Yes.
And I'm not talking about depth. I'm talking about the capacity for pleasure that a woman has. There's no stopping the orgasms, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's different, but really, if you look at it, it's infinite, the amount of pleasure that a woman can have. So we may as well start it off with an orgasm, right? That's the beginning. And I think that's something that men might not fully understand, considering that it ends with an orgasm for them, right?
I think that's a good point. It should be the beginning.
Yeah.
It should always be the beginning because she could have like 5 orgasms. There's no, it's a big long story, but there should always be a beginning.
Yeah.
Otherwise, forget about it. What's the point?
Yeah. And so what I suspect is what, in my experience, 99% of men already know is that you make her come and then you are going on a journey with her body. She will let you in a much deeper, more incredible, more pleasurable way than if you just, spit on your hand. And there's quickies out there. I totally get it. Like, sure, come home from work and fuck me up against the sink, like, real quick. I completely get that. I'm on board with all types of sex. But for the most part, the majority of the sex that you're having, I believe that it should start that way. Going back to saying no and the power of no, there is one tricky aspect that I think that we really don't touch on when it comes to, this whole discussion of self-love that we've been having, especially all over Instagram, right? It's a picture of like a woman's knees in the bathtub and she's got like fresh cut flowers and she's reading a book. She's got like a candle and she's like self-love and oh yeah, okay, that's awesome and it feels great. Just take your time and just be by yourself. For example, say you do encounter a guy who isn't treating you well. You just come to the decision that he needs a no and you guys have to break up. That's probably gonna feel really shitty, right? That's gonna feel like someone's cutting into you. That's gonna feel like you wanna cry. But that actually is also a form of self-love. And I think that's why people get a little bit confused. I think that's why we should talk about it, is that self-love doesn't always mean that you're feeling awesome.
Yeah.
Okay? These decisions that you make when you know something for sure and you act on it, even if it's an action that's going to create you to feel a sad emotion or bring you to a little bit of darkness, this is real, true love. You're giving yourself a big hug. You're putting yourself up to make a good decision in the future, and
That's
on
right.
and on and on. And
Same-
it starts the
yeah.
ball rolling, right?
Same thing when you feel uncomfortable when you're setting a boundary, right?
Yes.
When you feel that little hint of guilt, oh my God, that is also self-love. And it might not feel that way at the moment
Yeah.
when you're feeling those emotions, but you're absolutely right. That's just as important. And in the future, all these little things add up. And this is your power. Every time you say a no when it's appropriate, and you set a boundary when it's appropriate, that is just like filling you up with love
And that is your power. Yes.
Yeah, as a woman.
Yeah. And it's never going to, we're not saying, oh, every time you do it, it's going to get easier. It's not.
No. You
But
have to practice
you have
it.
to recognize it as love for yourself. Just like going to a yoga class is love for yourself. Just like, I just thought of this, if you have a tumor, you have to cut it out. Okay? You're physically going to hurt, but in the end, this is better for everyone. This is better for your body. This is the first step to healing, sometimes involves pain.
Yes.
But it builds your power, it builds your self-esteem, and you will have that knowledge behind you for the next time. Even when a bigger no comes along or a bigger decision comes along, you'll have that decision behind you, so you know that you can do it.
And another thing on top of that is that another reason it's important for women to practice saying no is that no one is there to take care of you.
Yeah.
You're on your own as a woman.
No one's gonna say no for you.
You need to say no. You need to protect yourself. Saying no is one of the only ways, and it doesn't always work, right? As we know, people ignore no's all the time. But as a woman, you have to get used to saying no because no one's going to do it for you. You're alone in the world, and it's really super important. To look out for yourself. I am not a parent, okay? But I really, truly believe this practice of saying no should start at a very young age. Like we're talking tiny little children and we're talking about people's bodies, right? Because I think a lot of the time with children even, I remember being a child and an adult would approach you and want to like give you a hug or something or sit next to you and it didn't make you feel comfortable, but you didn't feel like you could say no. Right? So I almost feel like they should be teaching this to people like super, super young. And so they can have that, they can go out in the world and say, no, I don't want your body to be this close to mine. Or I don't like you when you touch me in this way. And just get comfortable with it right from the start, right? People get very conditioned. I think.
Well, we were never really raised to be polite. I think that
Yes.
that
Manners.
And there's other things in my life that maybe were harder for me because I wasn't raised with manners or raised really like. Of course, my parents taught me yes and no, or sorry, yes please and no thank you, but it was not a priority. The priority was your autonomy and the power in the autonomy. And that's really what I got out of my childhood years because I had a really fucking crazy childhood. I totally rejected my parents from a very young age, and they kind of accepted it. Which is, I have lots of work to do about it, but they really did. And that is a good lesson because I feel that everyone should accept my rejections.
They listen to your no. They're like, I hear your no.
Yeah.
Right? See you.
People listen to my no. They respect my autonomy, and that's only because I demand it.
Yeah.
And it can be really uncomfortable. People go to restaurants and they get the wrong thing, and they're afraid to say, oh, actually, I ordered a red wine instead of a white wine. Because they want to be polite. They were raised with manners. They were taught, if you don't have manners, you're going to burn in hell. I don't know what they were taught. But it was a priority in their parents' upbringing of them to teach them that. And I thought that's where it comes from, right?
Or also, there's also maybe an insecurity of like they don't want to feel bossy, right?
Sure.
Or too pushy.
Yeah. Which I just was never afraid
yeah.
of feeling that way.
No, me neither.
Yeah. And, we all have rights and people fought for them. So we may as well, take them as our own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? The right for our personal space, the right to say no. Who knew that all of these rights were going to become so deep-seated in our personal lives, in our sexual lives, in our relationships? The ability to really stand up and say, "N-O, no way, I don't want this," whatever it may be. Of course, you can say it with manners, I guess, if it's really important to you. Whatever is important to you, you can say it in that way, but always practicing what you're comfortable with and speaking up to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think you have to go on and on about any details. I think you can be very simple and straight up with people. That's the other thing. You don't have to have all these excuses about your no. Like, I don't think you need to go on and on about why you're saying no or all the, maybe
you don't need a reason.
You don't need any reason. Maybe you have one, maybe you don't. It doesn't matter though. You can just say it. No, thank you, goodbye. That's it. Simple as that. I think that, it's really easy for us. We talk about this all the time, the way that we grew up, whatever. We've been bossy our whole lives and encouraged to do so. But for a regular person, do you have any tips for them on like saying no would be the best thing, right? But like, how can you encourage someone who's kind of shy to be more direct? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you have any advice for someone in that situation? Like just practice, you think?
I have one friend who is super polite, and my favorite thing about her is when she contradicts me. I love it. So I have a really strong group of friends, and we all get together all the time, and we all have strong personalities, so we all talking over each other, and, we all have opinions. And when she tells me I'm wrong, and she contradicts me and says, "No, Rosa, that's not how it is," nothing makes me happier, because I know that she rarely does that. And that she, like, when someone has the courage of their conviction, that's actually very, it's like a friend turn on. Like, it makes me have a crush on her.
It's endearing.
It's so endearing. And so I think that's the first thing you have to remember when you're the kind of person who is looking to start with the no practice. People like it.
Yeah, they love it. It's so endearing. You're absolutely right. People actually love it. It's almost, you have to really trick yourself into doing it because it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
But once you start doing it, you'll realize how obsessed people are with you after you give them a bunch of no's.
Well, yeah, and even when my friend, I love it because it creates more conversation.
Yeah.
If you agree with people and you're sitting there, there's nothing more to talk about. So I think that that's the best way to start. If you're really timid or if you're really unsure, I would start there. I would start with your friends. I would start, if you're the type of person who stays quiet in a conversation, but in your head you're hearing it and you know that you're right about something, you just read an article, you have the info to back it up, or if you really just want to contradict that person, in a safe space with your friends, that's the perfect place to start. A great other place to practice would be at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Right? At some point you're going to get the wrong thing brought to you. It's very normal. People forget, human error, whatever. Interrupt the person and say, the server, and say, "Excuse me, I actually ordered a red wine, not a white wine. Do you mind switching this for me?" That might be the biggest rush of your day or of your month if you don't do that regularly, or if you've never done it before.
I think that's a good one.
I think that's a great place to start too. You're going to end up getting what you want. The server does not care. Do it in a polite way. That's another great way to practice. And then, you got to go on to bigger things. So whenever you feel comfortable, sometimes you have to fake the confidence. Like I'm saying with your friends, it's in a safe place. You pretend you have all this confidence. You're going to contradict a friend of yours during conversation. Then you might have to, tell your boyfriend that you don't like doing his laundry anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a very, a random example, but you might have to say, "Listen, I don't have time for this laundry. I've been doing it for 5 years, and it's time for you to do your own laundry." I got you a new
Yeah.
I got you a new laundry basket, and I think it's very reasonable that you do it yourself.
Yeah.
And they might be shocked that this is out of your character. But if it's really important to you, and you can sum up the courage, you've got to practice it. This is something that you can rationalize first, and anyone will tell you that you shouldn't be doing your boyfriend's laundry if you don't want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, start small and practice with your friends. See how great the conversation gets going when you have something to say. Don't be afraid to tell the server that they got your order wrong, and then move on to something that really matters to you and bring it up and ask for what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are really good tips, Rosa. And I mean, another thing, like another favorite of mine would be like on a Friday night, every night you go out to a restaurant or you go out drinking or whatever, and you say, no, you know what? This Friday night, I'm going to go to the gym. And I'm going to go to bed at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock and just hang out and watch Netflix and chill by myself or whatever. And just do that. And you're going to feel great, save money. And, that's a good note there too. And you can do it at work too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, people out in the workplace, in the workforce, and I get it. Sometimes you have to be. But again, you don't always have to, you don't have to do things you don't like. You can say no.
Yeah.
Right? What about if someone gives you a no and you have to take the no, right? You're on the other side of it now.
Okay.
And maybe you're a guy and like maybe you're at a girl's house and all of a sudden she's like, oh no, I changed my mind. I don't want to have sex with you, or something happens, or you just got to know in your life. Do you have any advice for being good at taking a no?
Well, obviously the best way is when you can answer in a text message.
Yeah, that's right.
This immediately made me think of, I just recently broke it off with somebody, and every other breakup I've ever had was either a fight or a drama, and the guy literally said, okay, sounds good, take care. And, if you think about it, there is no better way to receive a no than to accept it with grace.
Yeah, absolutely,
right?
Absolutely.
As much as I was ready for a fight, as much as it makes you a little sore that they don't have all these questions.
Engage.
And they don't engage. That is absolutely the best way to handle something when you get a no.
That's right.
Whether it's a text message like that example, or what Rhea is saying, if you're at a girl's house, you're a guy, you just took her out to the parlor, you guys had a pizza, it was $90, you had a couple drinks after at Hello Goodbye, you go to her house, and then she's like, no, I don't want to. I'm not into this. For whatever reason, I think honestly the best thing to do is say, okay, and call yourself a cab.
Yeah, exactly. Get the hell out of there.
Don't ask why. And, these answers, the truth always comes out. If there's something that you really want to know the answer to, you can find it out, especially in such a sensitive situation, like you think you might be getting sex and then the girl changes her mind. That is not the time to ask why.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that drives me absolutely mental, and this is more and more every day, is when I say give a guy a no, or I lay out a boundary and he tries to negotiate with me.
Exactly.
It is infuriating.
It was kind of hilarious because that was kind of what I wanted, right? I
Yes,
wanted
exactly.
a negotiation. But really, the most mature possible thing you can do is accept it.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay? Because whether or not if she's playing games with you, then you don't want to negotiate with somebody who's willing to play games. And if she's not playing games with you, then you have to accept it either way.
Either way, you have to accept it.
Okay, so saying, okay, sounds good, and walking away is absolutely the best. And you have to recognize that you're getting a no. That's why women, it's so important to be very direct and clear.
Yes, exactly.
So that, and then the guy recognizes, because, our society, the way we've grown up, it's like, oh, well, don't say yes the first time. Make sure you push him off a little, and then, make him convince you to say yes. This is the society, this is the fairy tale that we've all been living with, or, for the last 50 years, oh, make him work for it. Like, make him turn that no into a yes. So, it can get very complicated because of, the rules of society, make a guy work for it. So I totally understand that there's gray areas, and it can be confusing, and that's why on both sides you have to be very direct these days.
Yes, I think that's an excellent point, and I think this goes back to what I was saying before, is never blab on about excuses and reasons. You have to be very simple with your words. Do not mince your words. Very simple no. You don't need to give a reason. If you have one, it should be very concise and very clear, and that will prevent negotiations from happening. Hopefully. It probably won't, but hopefully it does. Because otherwise, if you're kind of making it diluting your message, it can get very confusing.
Yeah, like guys have always been taught to chase the girl, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I totally understand this whole negotiation thing. But if you consider yourself to be a woken up man who is all for equal rights and for consent, not a rapist, basically, then you are totally on board with this. Hearing a direct no and accepting it and walking away.
And if there's any questions, I mean, I've said this time and time again, same thing with Rosa. If there's any questions, she's right in front of you. Ask her. If you're not sure about something,
right.
If you're not sure if it's a yes or a no, maybe she's not being 100% direct with you, ask her, right? Yeah. She's right there.
Ask her a yes or no question.
Yes.
Yeah. But, for the most part, I think it is pretty clear. And the questions, you mean like if you're unsure if she wants it, like, you're making out and you don't know if to go further, then be like, do you want to go further?
Exactly.
Do you want me to get a condom? Do you want to have sex? All of these questions, that's exactly what you mean. If you're not sure if the girl wants to have sex, then say, do you want to have sex?
Yeah.
And then the other questions, like, for example, if you're, I might need closure, or, if someone does break up with you and then you're like, like, I don't know if I want to just, like, say take care because I have all these questions in my mind. It's like, you know what? In a week, in 2 weeks, in a month, maybe you'll run into each other one day. If those questions are still pressing on you will get answers to them.
Yeah, you'll run into them on the street like I did with the people that
you're
ghosted
going to run
me.
into, and by then you're not even going to care.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So it's just like, as hard as it could be, I think that's the most mature, gracious thing that you can practice these days is accepting a no.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good practice too, is being really good at giving no's and also being really good at accepting them and just walking the fuck away and saying, that's great, I respect your no, goodbye.
Yeah, and both of these things, like I said before, they're going to be tricky. They're going to come with some negative emotions. And I think that, this whole Instagram movement of self-love has really been showing this great side of self-love where, again, you're getting, treat yourself and you buy yourself a big bag of candy. Well, you know what? There are also many, many acts of self-love that are going to make you feel negative emotions that I promise you can deal with because you have other people in your life besides your relationship, right? You have your friends, you have yourself, and you got to build that power up.
Yeah.
And the power of no is the strongest power you have. It's something that will, build up inside of you for your lifetime. And it powers your self-esteem. It powers everything. So don't forget that, even if, something is sad, even if something is hard, even if something is uncomfortable or, squicky or whatever it may be. Don't forget that that too is a form of self-love, not just buying yourself a big bag of candy.
And you know what another act of self-love is listening to our podcast. Because you're educating yourself, you're learning how to communicate with your partners better, and you're learning how to be vulnerable. So go check out rosaandrhea.com, listen to every episode of our podcast, subscribe to our podcast on the podcast app, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, do it all.
And check it out. And we also have a forum where you can ask Rosa questions.
Yeah.
And we really want you to ask her real stuff related to sex, love, and relationships. She's great at giving advice and tips, and we know that you guys have all kinds of questions. So don't be afraid to ask. You don't have to put your real name or anything like that if you're not comfortable. It can be totally anonymous. But go check it out, rosaandrhea.com.
Somebody did write into the website, and I saw this, and I haven't had a chance to email them back yet, but I will. And everyone who writes in with a question will get an personal email back from me with the answer. You might not get it on the podcast, but I will personally email you back and give you my advice, by the way. So this person asked about pegging, and believe it or not, I get asked this a lot in my DMs from guys who are interested in me personally to date. Because of the way we talk so openly and vulnerably ourselves, I think guys are, feel more comfortable to say what they really, really want. And a lot of them want penetration in the butt for whatever reason. They think they know it feels good, or they're just like looking to experiment. So this guy is in a long-term relationship, 18 months, with his girlfriend who he loves, and they've tried already anal beads in both of them, and they had a really good time with that. They have the long ones that are rubber, that have like the beads that are, like an inch apart, which I actually recommend. I love those ones. I've actually in the past experimented putting those inside of a guy, and he put them inside of me, and that was a very good time. So this guy is already on the right track, but they did that with the anal beads, and now he's asking advice to me on how to get his girlfriend to basically strap on a dildo and fuck him in the ass.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I'd like to know the answer too.
This is very delicate. When we started this podcast, literally the first podcast, we said that our biggest fear is if a guy asked us to do that.
That's right.
Right?
And it's not my biggest fear anymore.
No. No. You know what my biggest fear is? Having boring missionary sex where I don't come.
Yeah. Which happened to me the other day. That is the worst thing that could ever happen.
That's my new biggest fear.
You know why? Here's the thing about the guy wanting to get fucked in the ass by his girlfriend. When you're bringing someone else pleasure, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're pegging them, this, that, the other. It's going to be pleasurable for you.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah, that's why I love sucking dick so much. And I feel like guys just get confused. It's like, oh, she only likes sucking dick. It's like, no, dude, I like doing it, and I like when you do things to me too.
Exactly.
Anyway, so back on track with this question. Basically, he wants to know how to bring it up. Personally, just by the way that he worded things, it sounds like his girlfriend's pretty open-minded. I would go, because since they've already played together, I would invite her on a date, maybe like a day date where a couple cocktails are involved, and near their favorite sex store. Oh, this store's right around the corner. I totally forgot this was here. You've already had the couple of cocktails. You guys are feeling good. You go into the store together, and you bring her to the section, and you say, listen, I want to buy this. Do you know why? Bring it up. Say, this is the exact thing that I want us to buy. We don't have to buy it today, but I'm looking at this strap-on with this particular dildo, and I'm thinking this could be a good time for us. This is what I want. Grab onto it. Ask her to try it on. If she's really reacts poorly to it, give her some more time. Maybe go back another time or bring it up later. But you have specifically said, I want this with this toy. I want to do this act with you. She might respond and say, yeah, let's buy it right now. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
Or she might need a couple days to think about it. But you basically put it on the table. I think that going into the sex store itself, sort of like you guys kind of go into another world.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You can you're literally asking a stranger, oh, how will this make me come? The people that work there are complete experts. They'll leave you alone if you want privacy. They'll answer any question that you want. So you're already kind of in this different world. And especially if you've had a couple cocktails and you're with your loved one who you trust and respect and you've already done a lot of fun play with, I think you can just go directly up to the toy that you want and say, I want to play with this toy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that would be my advice. I really encourage you to go and do that, sir.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I like that date idea at the sex toy store. Everyone should do that. That's just a great idea. That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, and have the money ready. Obviously, pay for it yourself. And, you know, somebody that you're already in a relationship with, they'll recognize that you're being vulnerable. And, you know, obviously time it right. Don't make it on a day where she had a bad day. And make it a date. Make it a fun time that you've carved out hours for her, and you're asking her to do some carving out of her own.
Yeah, totally.
So I think that would be the best way to start things. Just, you know, it's for play. You don't have to be afraid. This is for fun. This is a good time. You know, also there might be a compromise other toy that she would rather put in your butt, and it's going to be right around the corner in the same store. Yeah. Right? If you talk about it in bed, you might get a hard no.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're not around all these toys.
It's not exciting
you. You know, you might be like, this is the dildo I want you to fuck me with. And she'd be like, well, how about we get this vibrating toy instead, and I'll put this in your butt. And then maybe another time I'll buy this strap on.
Yeah. Right? Scale it. Work your way up.
Work your way up.
We did actually get another question. I'm just remembering now, and I'll probably answer it because I'm the one with the big boobs. But he wanted to know if all girls or all women with big boobs like being titty fucked. And it's easy to laugh at a question like that, but it's a great time to say that actually now we know everyone likes different things.
Yeah, exactly.
There's not two people on the planet that like the same thing.
Whether or not they have big boobs.
We don't know if that's impossible to know, and I don't think it's true. I think it's impossible. But I did get a little bit excited, so I was like, I'm gonna go practice. Do I like being titty fucked?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I have that giant dildo. I was titty fucking myself with that for a bit to see.
You're like, is it good?
But another thing is that everyone's bodies are different.
Yeah.
So the space between each woman's breasts is different. Every cock is different. There's so many variables, especially with titty fucking.
Oh, yeah.
And then the amount of oil you've got on there. So no, not every woman with big boobs likes being titty fucked.
Well, with that no, I think that's a great place to end. Let's end on a no. No.
Also, when you go check out rosaandrhea.com, there's another link on there. You'll see it. It's 3 laptop emoticons. Rosa and Rhea is our podcast, our website. We do this all for free. Me, Rosa, and our other sister, Hannah. We desperately each need a new laptop. So if you want to donate to our art, our content, help us produce this fantastic podcast for you, head over to our website and hit the Help Rosa and Rhea and Hannah get a new laptop button.
Oh, that's nice. Thanks for doing that, Rhea. Thank you guys so much for listening. Follow us on everything. Subscribe to YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast app. And we'll be back in a week with a brand new episode of Rosa and Rhea.